Hi guys, we're on our way to York to working on the 6.2 metre by 3.5 metre drum studio. We've just got me and PJ today. We've left Jacob in the workshop doing some other preparation for another job. He's absolutely hoofing it down. We're almost at the job. So we'll bring you guys back once we're a bit further on. So we've got quite a few bits to do today. One of the things we're going to be doing is getting this subfloor down. We're also going to get the base plates down for the inner layer of the building. And we've also got insulation that's going to go against the walls. We've also got insulation to go in the ceiling, electrics to do. So there's electrics to go all the way around the room. So the other thing we're going to do is talk through how we tackle the ventilation system on a room of this type where it's soundproofed and it's totally sealed. You need some way for the building to breathe, but also so you can breathe. We're going to be running through how the ventilation system is set up at this stage, which obviously will be quite interesting. So stay tuned for that, and we'll bring you guys back once we're a bit more set up.
What's that shirt you're wearing, Chris?
Soundshirts.com.
Nice.
Sponsor of today's video. Get 10% off with code SPE10. Full link in the description. The old ratchet strap. Okay guys, so we're all set up. We're just about to start doing some of the electrics. Thought I'd just run through some of the requirements for this and the sort of things you're going to need. We've actually done a little bit of a plan. The guy we're working for has actually marked where we're going to put sockets and stuff. Obviously some of the things are pretty self-evident, they need to go in specific places, so we'll run through those. But essentially we're going to have about 7 sockets around the perimeter of the room. So we've got those on the plan. PJ's going to get started with that shortly. But in addition to that, we also sort of future proofing the room a little bit. We're thinking of putting a socket and a HDMI cable in the roof, potentially a projector, which could project onto that wall. We're also going to put a socket on this wall for potentially a TV. Sort of a monitor screen that might go in between the two kits. This room isn't going to have air conditioning, but what we're actually going to do is put a rotary isolator switch down somewhere in the room on the outside, so in future an air conditioning system could be retrofitted. So I think that's going to go on this wall here. The lighting bank's going to go here. We're going to have an outside light over the door on the outside. The other thing is the fan system. So even if you've got aircon, we actually have our own fan system which we use, which we're going to get to, but we're going to need to put a feed in for an external fan. In terms of the actual cables you're going to be using, we've got these drums with twin and earth. So we've got 1.5, which is going to be for the lighting and the fan, things like that. And then stuff that draws a bit more power, like the sockets or the aircon feed, that sort of stuff, that's going to be in a 2.5 twin and earth. So we've got a couple of 50-metre drums of those. Hopefully we will have enough. The other thing we need to do, PJ, is work out where the consumer unit's going. What we're going to do is actually run a 6mm 3/4 armoured cable from the house, come down the garden and then in here. Building regs, it's 1.2 in height, so it's kind of somewhere up here. So we'll run all the cables to there. That's be our central location. That's pretty much what we're going to be doing over the next hour or so. So I'll bring you guys back once we're a bit further on. PJ normally does all the 2.5 cable, all the ring main all the way round. Obviously the way this works is literally starting at the consumer unit. We're just going to come down, we're going to run to the first socket, and then obviously that'll come out, and then we'll join another piece of cable or keep it connected, run round to the next socket, connected right round, all the way round. Sort of usually go back over the door, and then so it creates a complete circuit, well, a ring main. The other option there is to do a radial circuit, which is basically where it doesn't return back to the board, so it's just a single cable from the board and it finishes at one of the sockets. The disadvantage of that, you can only have a certain amount of sockets on that system, and it's definitely only a 16 amp breaker. The ring main is a 32 amp breaker. Anyway, we'll stop waffling and bring you back once we get started. Okay guys, so whilst PJ's getting the ring main started and sort of setting up some of the heights and locations, I'm going to start with the lighting. Let's get cracking. Lovely and wet, guys, today. PJ's doing the ring main there. It's just getting like about halfway round. What have I done so far? So I've got, let's just get out of the way of that light. So I've got 2 spotlight feeds, so these are going to be 4-way spots, surface mounted with 4G U10s in each, so they can be sort of pointed around the room. 2 independent feeds to those going to the light switches here, so you can switch those on and off independently. I've got 1 feed going to an outside light. I've also got a feed from the consumer unit, so I've got a feed here which goes all the way around and lands here, so basically it's powered at the switch. So the next thing I'm going to do is actually tackle the ventilation system. So the first part of this is literally just running a wire to somewhere on the back wall. What I need to decide is where outside the external fan's going to live. It's going to be in a waterproof box, so we need to get a 1.5 cable from this location here just behind me to somewhere on that back wall. Now what I normally do is just work out externally what room we've got. I think on this, the back of this is plenty, there's like 1 meter plus, so we can put it anywhere on the back wall. But I think what I'll do to start with is do a 4-inch hole on one side, a 4-inch hole on the other, and then probably pick the closest one to have as the fan. Obviously the cables are going to run from here to there rather than to all the way over there. So that's going to be my first job. We're going to cut 2 4-inch holes out and we'll bring you guys back. That's the hole done in the rock wool. It's going through the 18mm OSB as well. The rubber roof comes around the back, so that's all you can see at the moment. But that will have a 6-meter piece of ducting going through it. The reason we put the fan on the outside these days is because it's a lot less noisy. It's obviously switchable from here on this lighting bank, so if you're actually recording, you can switch it on and off. A few years ago, we used to actually hide them in the ceiling, which 2 problems. 1, you couldn't get access to it once it had been plastered if it went faulty, and 2, it used to sort of vibrate quite a bit with the, you know, the sort of vibration of the fan and the noise. What we started doing and was putting them in a waterproof box outside. So I think this side is going to be the best option, because then we only need to run a cable across the ceiling down to where the power is going to be over here. If we actually send it all the way to the other side, we're just going to be using more cable. Okay guys, so we got all the electrics sorted. We've got our lighting bank here, got a consumer unit going to go over here. Got sockets going all the way around the room. That's all sorted. Got a couple of little extra bits which we mentioned. So we've got a feed. Well, this is like it's gonna be a single socket for a TV. So you've got a mounted screen there in between a couple of kits. That's that one. And then we've got another sort of socket going up here, which could be for a projector, which should be mounted over there. We also put a feed for a rotary switch for the aircon, which just comes straight from the board, straight outside, into a rotary switch. And then we've got our fan ducting. We've still got to really explain how this works properly, but all I can say at the moment is we've done a couple of 4-inch holes. This is our 6-meter length of plastic ducting, which is about $7.99 from Toolstation. Yeah, 100mm flexible hose. We've also got a 1.5 feed to that, which will go to an exterior fan in a box. So the idea is that through this vent, we'll suck air out of the room using the fan. And then on the other side, we'll have air naturally coming in through this vent as it gets sucked out. So for this to work, the door's got to be shut, so it's like an airtight sort of unit. And then obviously you can get airflow between these 2 vents. The next thing we're going to do is actually get some visqueen membrane down. What we thought might be a good idea is get the visqueen membrane down, just black plastic, all the way across, and then sort of lip it up a little bit, and then we can get our rock wool that covers this whole area from the floor can be sat on that visqueen. So normally we use like a damp proof course, but we thought actually if we just do it all the way across, then the subfloor's also sat on that as well, so it keeps it all dry. It's been raining a lot today, there's nothing coming in. We know it's like completely sealed. We're going to get the damp proof membrane down, then we're going to probably put the base plates in for the second walls, which is going to be around here. And then in between that, we're going to backfill that with some 100mm rock wool. Later on in the video, we'll show you in a bit more detail how the ventilation system works. There's a few people have been asking about that. We'll bring you guys back when we're a bit further on.
Hey PJ, I bet you're glad you got that degree in electronics now, didn't you?
Yeah. We all sweep the floor.
This is degree level sweeping.
It's not just your average sweeping, just, you know, moving the broom or the brush around. So, but this is proper, serious sweeping.
And you know it makes sense. Right.
That's the visqueen down. We just, rather than cut it off, we've actually just lipped it up because obviously you're going to have Mr. Bicycle on the floor guy. We just lipped it up, so essentially it's going to have a rock wool coming up here, and we thought actually rather than cut it off and just have a little lip, let's just use it all. So it's 4 metre piece, I think, so it's just gone up the wall slightly. So what we're going to do now is going to get the base plates for the inner shell of the building sort of bonded to the, well, when I say bonded, they're going to be screwed, concrete screwed into the concrete. So once we get those set up, we'll have an 11 centimetre gap, so it gives like a centimetre tolerance for the rock wool to go in, which is 100 mil or 10 centimetres. We'll get that set up and get our timbers in, and then we'll bring you guys back shortly. That's the base plates in, that's the visqueen in, that's the electrics in. What we've got to do now is get the next layer of rock wool against the wall. So this is like a sort of blanket 100 mil covering. We've just put these base plates in, which are 11 centimetres from the outside wall. We've got about a 1 centimetre tolerance, so we're going to build these up. Once we've brought in a few from the van, I'll show you how we're actually going to fix them and keep them in place. So what we're going to do is essentially stack these up. So I'll just get the first one in. It's going to go in there nice and snug. The next one that's stacked on top obviously is going to be like a half, so this will be sort of in a brick, so essentially it's going to look something like that. But just to hold it in place, using these 100 mil fixing screws, so we're mechanically fixing this rock wool to the outer shell, so it's kind of behaving like the outer shell. And all we're going to do is we'll put our 100 mil screw in there. So it just sits there, and literally I'm just going to nip it up just so it catches the wood, and that will just hold it in place. But that's the next layer of rock wool in. That's a nice blanket covering. You can probably already hear it in my voice how that's changed. Super quiet, especially if you go into the corner. It sounds very bassy. Where to next, PJ?
Help, like.
Do you have to pick that many up at once?
Well, I'm being efficient.
Doing a good job there, PJ.
This was your idea to come from this angle.
You're in. Hi guys, we're just back at the job this morning in York. Let's just have a little look round and see what we've got to do today. So we've got quite a bit done yesterday. We obviously got this layer of rock wool in, then the sort of next layer. One thing we've got to start off with is getting the rock wool in the ceiling. We've got to make sure that we actually push the rock wool right up against the roofing board so we don't get any condensation and there's no sort of dead spots where condensation could build up. As long as we push that insulation right up against the roofing substrate, the chipboard there, that'll be fine. The other thing we got to do is get the floor in, isn't it, PJ? Yeah. As you've probably seen earlier in the video, we got the damp-proof membrane down. We're going to go through how we actually construct the floor. We're also going to get to the ventilation system. We're going to be talking a little bit about that later on in the video. So we're going to get it set up. It's about 8:20 in the morning. We've just had some good breakfast, but we're going to have to put masks on and deal with this ceiling first, I think, to get rid of that pile of stuff. So I'll bring you guys back once we've got the camera set up.
Ain't looking for much of many, 'cause we got plenty. No line of division, we're all heaven sent. 'Cause I really, really, really want you to know that I love you from the highest peak to low. There ain't nothing that will block our path to grow. We can work it out. If you're lost in the blue, will choose to open it down.
Okay guys, so we got the rock wool in the ceiling, the 100mm acoustic insulation that's pushed right up against the roofing substrate, which is moisture resistant chipboard tongue and groove. So the next thing we're going to do is going to get in the flooring, which is the subfloor. This is going to be 3x2 timber with 10mm rubber, and we'll show you that once we've kind of got that set up. That's going to be the last thing we're doing today, but at the end we're going to be showing you how to set up the ventilation system. If you've been watching the video, you're probably waiting for. So we'll bring you guys back once we're a bit more set up. Okay guys, so we're going to now start getting the subfloor down. There's kind of two parts of this. We're going to have PJ outside. He's going to be prepping the timbers. I'm going to be inside, putting the timbers down, installing the 50mm rock wool, and obviously getting all the spaces and stuff. So let's just talk about what this is. So this is 3x2 timber, and we're using this 10mm rubber, which is quite a hard rubber. If you need to know where to get this from, give us a shout. We can actually supply it, but we actually just cut it with a knife. So it's 10mm, and we're going to be putting these every 40 centimeters. So we just basically just mark this on the timber every 40. Now we've tried all different ways of actually connecting the rubber to the timber. Gluing it can work, but obviously we're always working pretty quickly. So what we found the best way is using some really small brads, which are going to sit just sort of, they're going to countersink into the rubber, so it's not really touching the floor. We've tried screws, but sometimes they can be a bit more proud and come off. So yeah, the brad seems to be the best thing. So literally just using, actually what I'll do is I'll countersink this a little bit more. That goes a bit further. It just sits underneath the surface. Okay, so if you follow me, that's all sorted. Okay, so it's a little bit unusual this, because we don't have the walls up, and we're obviously putting the floor in at a slightly different point. Normally we'd have the walls up and on these base plates here, and then obviously we'd put the floor in right at the end, but because we've got a bit of extra time and we haven't done the walls yet, we thought, well, we'd get the floor in because we're here. So essentially this is just going to sit on the floor here. Now we're going to sort of about there. We're going to sort the spacings out as we go. We've got another piece in the van which we're going to add into there. Then we're going to start layering up rock wool. So we have 50mm rock wool at 40 centimetre widths all the way along. Then you'll have another batten, rock wool batten. So you'll just build the floor up, and ultimately that's going to hold our 18mm cable floor on top, and then we're done.
Just explain to the people, Chris, why this being a separate floor, it's isolated. What's going on here?
Yeah.
So it's not touching, is it?
Yeah, so it's basically isolated from the outer wall. It's also isolated from the floor with the rubber. So it's kind of like a decoupled subfloor. It's not touching the walls. It's not touching the floor. So obviously any noise that's happening on this subfloor it's going to minimize what transfers through to the structure. You cannot get it completely isolated at this level. You know, you have to go a lot further, but for what we're doing, this works really well. Right, let's get cracking. Hi guys, so that's all the rock wool in the floor and the timber with the rubber on. We're now just going to get the cable floor. I think it's actually Kronospan, this one, but that's just the brand. It's an 18mm moisture resistant tongue and groove board, which that goes down. So what we got to do is, because we're working a little bit backwards here in terms of how this is going up, we want to leave space here for the wall to go in, and then there's going to be 2 layers of plasterboard. That's our little spacer we've made, so we'll just get this set up here. PJ's going to cut outside, aren't you, mate?
Yes.
Oh, I'm using that though. I think it's 16 boards or something like that. So yeah. We set up a little cutting table there. So we'll get these in and then bring you guys back. Yeah. Okay guys, so we got the floor in, we've got the base plates in for the next part of the build, we've got the 100mm Rockwool in, the second layer, we've got the Rockwool in the ceiling, we've got the electrics in, so we've got loads of stuff now. So how does the ventilation system work? Basically got 2 holes in the building, one in the top left and one in the top right. What this guy here has got is a 6-meter length of flexible plastic ducting. So this piece of ducting is going to be attached to a fan outside. So it's a fan that's drawing 180 cubic meters an hour. That draws air out of the room through this vent. Now, this vent could go somewhere over there. So if PJ takes that over there, imagine there's a wall in front of here. There's going to be another ceiling as well. So this can go up here in between the 2 ceilings, and then it comes out the second ceiling through the plasterboard, and then it's sucking air from the room through here all the way to there, into that fan, and then out of a vent outside. Do you get that so far? Yes. The other side, we also have a piece of ducting which is 6 meters long. That's all compressed at the moment. That is going to do exactly the same thing. So this is going to go along the ceiling somehow, and then it's going to come out through the second ceiling. This one's what's called a passive vent. So there's no fan, just outside there's a grill. Air's going to come back into the room. So as it gets sucked out, it also gets put back in. And that's how the ventilation works. What we'll also do is just demonstrate quickly how good this ducting is, because people make these huge baffle boxes for outside the room, which are good, but you don't need them if you've got space to hide the 6 meters of ducting. So what we've done is just to kind of emulate what this would be like outside, because you've got to remember all this ducting is going to be in Rockwool, right? Sort of in between the 2 ceilings. So if we just get PJ to go out of the room, just slightly, I'll go down here. You set exactly the same volume. Right, you're going to hear it through the window more than through here. But anyway, go on, PJ. Again. Okay, that's fantastic. So you can see how, because of the nature of it, it sort of breaks up the sound waves inside that pipe. So you don't need anything too fancy. This is $7.99, right? And if it's inside the building, in the way we just described, it works. If you're using the flat channel ducting, so the smooth stuff, the sounds go straight through. Doesn't actually work. It's got to be, yeah, so it's got to be the flexible ducting. Okay, so that's pretty much how the ventilation works, but we'll come to that again on a later video. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button and to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.